Today I'm at Mpact Sports in Franklin, Tennessee, and I'm wearing a dobak. I'm talking to Eric Melton, who is the owner and head of martial arts. Eric works with children to inspire them to develop their physical and spiritual abilities. Former kickboxing champion, Eric finds his joy and purpose in passing down the wisdom he learned through his fights, both the ones that got him in trouble and the ones that got him the US title. I'm Tajci. At 19, I was a superstar and I was lost inside. I left it all behind, switched continents, and started all over. Years later, I found myself lost again, this time in the American dream. This is a story about awakening, about living the life you were created for, about going inward and discovering the joyous and purposeful person you and I are both meant to be. This is Waking Up in America. Eric.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
How do we greet in martial arts?
We usually, when you go in and you bow with your eyes up, slight bow with the head, just out of respect, nothing else.
Okay. So, Eric, welcome.
Thank you.
Good. You started out on the wrong side of the tracks. What does that mean?
I was not a real nice kid. I wasn't a bully or anything like that because I was real small. My whole family is 6'4" or better. My sister's 5'10". In school, it was kind of tough for me because my oldest brother was all football conference, my other older brother was all basketball, and then my mom wanted me to play in the band. And so I wanted to do what mom wanted me to do because I was kind of a mama's boy, and so they started me with a clarinet. So in a tough school I went to, it didn't go real well, especially from the area we grew up in. It was a real tough area.
And where was that?
Clarksville.
Tennessee.
Tennessee. My dad worked on the Army base, and we were out in the country. And so I learned to use my little clarinet as a weapon. And, yeah, it works for me. So it's about this big, and I hold the handle, and I cracked a few people with it. But then my band leader wanted me to go to tenor sax, which is huge.
Yes.
Now I'm little, and it is as big as I am, so it was no longer a weapon. It was just something to hide behind when I could.
Would you say it was the resistance to be who you are and not allowed to be who you are, or that you didn't find the way to express yourself?
That has changed for me 1,000 times over the years. When you don't have any guidance as a child, you find your own way. As my father didn't believe in God, and so our family didn't. So we just sort of make your own way. You learn to justify things as a 10-year-old, things that you do. And when you start learning to justify things, it's not always the right thing, but usually, a lot of times it's never the right thing. When I was around 11 or 12, my mother got sick. She was always in the hospital. She later passed. And what happened was these people came to our house. They were RAs. I don't know if you know what that is. It's Royal Ambassadors. And they talked to my dad about going to a church down the road. And he literally threw them out the door. But one came back, he talked to me, and I went to church, and I would slip off and go, and I would go to RAs. I didn't want to go to church because, that was really not what we're supposed to do. So I learned something from then. It's never, the relationship is what you're looking for, but as 12, you don't even understand what a relationship is. But they never came back to the house. They did their job. I got saved, and they let me go. And so I found out over time that that's just where it starts. And so as a 12-year-old, I truly believe I was saved. And I knew right from wrong. This is right and this is wrong, but remember, I had no one teaching me.
Right.
So you learn to teach yourself. So I got hooked up with a group of guys that we did everything and you can imagine. We robbed cars, we stole cars, we broke into people's homes, we fought all the time. But in my little mind, when we robbed homes, I wouldn't take money for nothing. I mean, everything they sold, if I didn't take any money for it, then I'm still good with God, in my brain, okay? And then when we fought and we hurt people, as long as I was helping my friends, that was good.
As a young man who's out there fighting and doing all these things that you say in your heart, you know they're wrong, but you're doing it for your friends, and it is a part of belonging, part of being a part of something.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And during all this, we would get arrested from time to time.
Yes.
And one of the things my dad did teach me, he didn't teach me.
I'm sorry. I have to pause. You got arrested from time to time. I don't get a chance to talk to many people that would say that.
Well, it was like my dad told me, and I tell kids this all the time, if you say yes, sir, and yes, ma'am, no, sir, no, ma'am, and you treat people with respect, they tend to like you better. So I never got arrested.
Then there came a point that seems like a first turning point where at one event...
I had gotten into a really bad fight.
Okay.
Where I'm 14, just turning 15. My mom had passed away. And my dad, he was just not interested in the family. You know, there's 5 of us, so he wasn't really around. I had gotten into this really bad fight. Now I'm 15. The people were fighting in their 30s. So it's a whole lot different than there's so many more of them. And they just beat our brains out. And so afterwards, as I'm going home that night, a police officer found me. I was just laying in a ditch behind the store. I just said, let's just take me home. So he said, no, we're going to have to arrest you this time, because they knew who I was. And so then one of the officers says, well, tell you what, if you come to my karate school, and we'll come, you have to come, or we're going to take you to jail. And so I don't know if you can do that or not do that, but that was a whole lot better than going to jail. So he lived 5 miles from my house, and what I did every Monday night, I would run to his house, 5 miles, I would take 2-hour class, and then I would run home. I did that for years. And in the back of the class is where I had to start. I was still me. I was mean, and I was tough. So it didn't happen overnight. Like, people bring kids here all the time. They want their kids to change or respect. It doesn't happen overnight.
No.
You know, my heart was hard to change.
It sounds like this cup offered you a chance and offered you what you were maybe screaming for: attention, love, maybe direction,
Just,
guidance.
Someone to say, don't do that.
Yes,
you know?
yes. When we come back, we'll talk to Eric about what led him to start the Mpact Sports and affect people. This episode has been brought to you by Doing Good, a 501c3 nonprofit organization which tells real stories by real people who are making a difference through volunteering. Find out more online at Doing Good TV or the website doinggood.tv. So here we are. So you're a new chapter. You are training now. How did you become a kickboxing champion?
I finally got to a good gym, and in the gym I was what they call a feeder fighter. I fought the real fighters, but I was good enough to last 1 good round, and then I would last 3 rounds, and I would last 5 rounds. And over the years, I'd come to last all 12 rounds. I could fight the best of them, 12 rounds, and fight toe-to-toe with them. I finally started winning. I won for 10 straight years, and I became one of the fighters of the gym that got treated like a fighter. I literally made a box with God on it, set it on my shelf, said, God, you're going to stay up there this fight. I am going to take this guy up. The very first round, if you've ever seen it, it's on the internet, I got knocked down the first round. I went 10 years without ever being knocked down. I just started praying. I literally started praying. In the 6th round, I started praying. I said, God, just let me stay on my feet. And so by the 12th round, I remember knocking him down. And he looked up at me and he said, you know, I can't get up. And I thought to myself, you know, that was it. You know, as I was looking down at him, and I thought about this the moment I knocked him down, when he said, I can't get up. My dad would said, come down the steps, and I'd be in the basement. I'd made a pillow bag, and I'd hit the bag. Had no training whatsoever, 11, 12, 13 years old, and I would just hit it. He'd come down the stairs, and he would talk to me about how worthless I was, and what a waste of time that I was, all the time. But he would sit there, and I didn't realize this at the time. I just thought, he's just a mean person. So I'd hit the bag harder. And then he would sit there for 30, 40 minutes and just berate me over how bad I was. And then every once in a while he would say, you're dropping your hands. Keep your hands up. And then I'd hit the bag some more. And this went on for years. He would come home and just tell me how worthless I was. But at that moment, I had won the world title. I realized he loved me. He really did. That's just the only way he showed it. I mean, because if he truly thought I was worthless, he would have said I'm worthless and leave. But he'd sit there for almost an hour sometimes, just watching me hit this bag.
Was that a moment that you felt you forgave your father and you felt loved?
I think so. I think it was a big moment for me because I never forgave him. for all the stuff that I felt like he did, not just to me, but everybody. And he grew up in a very loveless world, you know, back in the 30s, and life was hard, and you had to be hard, and that's how he showed it.
96 Olympic Games in Atlanta. How did you get picked to carry the torch?
My wife wrote this essay, and there's like they told us hundreds of thousands of people sent in essays. They said they would notify us through email. And they said, I looked at it again and said, if you wasn't notified by February 5th, by next day or letter, then you just didn't get picked. So I didn't get picked. So I go home that night, like 10 o'clock, I get off work, I walk in the front door. Well, the delivery person had delivered a next day or letter for me a week ago. And there it is. Next day, it said, I open it up, and it says, you've been chosen. But you have to notify us by February the 5th, 12 p.m., or we'll go to the next candidate. And I am on the phone for hours. I called Atlanta. I'm trying to find the president of the Olympic Committee, which is possible. And so I bet you I left 30 messages. I'm in. I'm in. So finally, I didn't hear nothing for a while, and then they called me, and it was the most awesome thing I've ever done.
We're talking to Eric Melton, whose story is one of overcoming a tremendous amount of anger and growing up on the wrong side of the tracks, and then becoming a world champion and carrying the torch at the Olympic Games in Atlanta in '96. When we come back, we'll talk about Mpact Sports and how Eric is helping the kids today to develop physically and spiritually. We're here with Eric Melton at Mpact Sport. You were married, 3 children, working for UPS. Now you are a regular guy. And then what happens is you, in 2002, you lost your job with UPS. And your wife describes it as a really low point.
I guess, you know, when a man moves on in life, I think it was God moving me on. Because I thoroughly enjoy what I do. Working for UPS, it was a training field for me. It trained me how to get up and go to work.
Yes.
It trained me how to work hard when I was there. It trained me how to do my best all the time. It's crazy to say it, but I've always felt as UPS was a father figure for me. I mean, there was a very demanding father figure for me, but it trained me to be a person that did my best all the time.
Yes.
That's what UPS, they do their best all the time.
Yes.
Not just some of the time. And so it helped me fighting. I was the management, so I'd go out with the driver, and I would just sprint back and forth. You know, they always wanted me to ride with them because, especially when I was fighting, because I got my training in during the day. Because I would train sometimes at 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, because I had to work all day. You know?
When you lost that job, how did that have an impact on you?
Well, it's like losing a father.
Yeah.
Where do I go from here? We were talking to friends, and he comes up to me and says, well, why don't you do what you do best? And I said, why? He goes, teach. I said, well, I don't really teach really well. I fight, but you have to learn to be a teacher. So what I did was I went to 2 different churches and asked if I could teach martial arts totally for free. And I would train all these kids on how to be, I'm training how to be a teacher, and I'm training them martial arts, so I made a lot of mistakes. But the biggest mistake I made was I'm standing in front of all these kids, and they're talking. And I'm a world champion, and they're talking. I am loading their brains up with how to be a champion. I said, you guys need to understand, I am a world champion. You guys listen to me. And I go on and on. And this little girl in the front row, and this was a turning point in teaching. She raised her hand. You could tell she was nervous and scared. I said, yes. She goes, what's a world champion?
Oh,
and I just went, wow, what a moment. And all the parents were like this right here, because they understood being a world champion. I had a lot of knowledge to teach these kids, but they don't care.
Yes.
They just care that you love them.
Yes.
They just care that, and they'll love you back if you love them.
Yes.
And that's how I teach now. The parents bring it, I want my son to learn respect. I said, there's 2 ways. You can demand it, which doesn't work, or you can command it and show them my heart. Once they see my heart, and it takes a little while, everybody's different, then they'll show me theirs. And then no matter what I say to them, and they will accept it. Okay,
Yes.
but not until that moment happens between teacher and student will anything happen. But that's what you have to look for. That little girl that asked me what a world champion was, it was just a true
Yes.
turning point. So I taught there for years. And then we decided to go at as a business, and as any business, it's difficult.
Yes.
You got to pay the bills.
Eric, this is such an American thing to do, to use all of the hardship and the wrongs that you've done and turn them into right, and then give back to the community. And even at, like you said, every startup is hard, and it took a lot of risk, a lot of love and commitment to create this place. One story of someone, of a kid maybe, that affected you, that you helped in this place, or?
There's a girl, years ago. She came, she was new to our country. She couldn't speak English very well. And not always, but you could tell there's a lot of strength in this person. But the girl was a bully, okay? And I caught onto it really fast. So in class, when I walked out of class, this child hit another child. And so I rushed back in, because of crying and stuff. And I said, listen, I've told the dad that you really can't come here because you can't hit other kids in here. I'm teaching people how to defend themselves, and your kid's hitting them. So she leaves, and she's real upset. We got along really well, and she was a sweet kid, but then I thought about it for days. This kid's me, Okay, so I teach kids how to deal with bullies. But here's a bully in class, so and I'm gonna make her leave, right? So I thought about that. I called the dad back. I said, listen, you can have the child come back. I want the child to come back. I said, but she cannot quit. That's not an option. She cannot quit. He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm going to deal with her the way she should be dealt with, and she's going to want to quit. We have huge requirements for black belt. I've only had, last 25 years, 14 black belts, and she's one of them. But she is probably the nicest lady. She just graduated from high school. She's into college. She got a 31 on her ACT, and it's an amazing brain in this girl's head. But she comes back and helps me teach. Teaches the kids. But I wonder sometimes, where would she have been? Would somebody else have found it and helped her? You never know. But she's quite the kid.
And it's your experience and what you went through that recognized that in her.
I think so.
That's
I don't always
beautiful.
think about it at the time, but it truly bothered me.
Yes.
And then you just, I can help this one kid.
And thank you for pointing out how it's a process, because life is a journey, and we go through ups and downs, and we learn hard way, and we have good teachers, and we have guidance from people that love us, but they don't know how to communicate that, and sometimes that gets miscommunicated. But thank you so much for what you do. Thank you for opening up your heart and telling us your story as is. Thank you, Eric. This episode has been brought to you by Doing Good. Find out more online at Doing Good TV or the website doinggood.tv. DeeAnn, you're Eric's wife and a partner at Mpact Sports, and I would think that the only way how a former kickboxing champion and a black belt can live with someone is if that someone also has a black belt. And you do.
I do. I am a second-degree black belt. I'm not sure it's a prerequisite to live with a black belt or a former fighter, but it probably helps a lot.
Yes, I'm just joking, but I mean, for me, what's beautiful about it is that you came to Nashville as a singer-songwriter.
I did.
And you picked up martial arts.
It gave us a way to have something in common and to just a physical outlet to share and to encourage each other with, yes.
And then you excelled at it. It's just really beautiful. It's inspiring.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. So you're going to sing for us?
Yes.
And what you going to sing?
A song called Wayfaring Stranger. It's one of my favorites. We actually named our daughter, our firstborn, after this song.
Wonderful.
I am a poor wayfaring stranger, traveling through this world of woe. There is no sickness, no toil or danger in that bright land to which I go. Well, I'm going there to see my Father, going there no more to roam. I'm just a going over Jordan, just a stranger going home. I know dark clouds, they gather o'er me. I know my pathway's rough and steep, but golden fields lie out before me, where weary eyes no more shall weep. Well, I'm going there to see my Jesus, going there no more to roam. I'm just a going over Jordan, just a stranger going home.
We're just all strangers going home.
Yes.
Thank
goodness.
you.
Thank you.
To share Eric's story and to find more, visit us at wakingupinamerica.net, and do find us on social media as well. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.